Welcome to Film at 50, a podcast that celebrates semi-centennials in the world of cinema. I'm your host, Brian Rowe, and I'm very excited to welcome to the podcast today Hayley Loboda and Zach McAvoy from the Laughing at Ourselves podcast to talk about Happy Gilmore, which is celebrating its 25th anniversary this month. How are the two of you doing?
I'm feeling very old right now because 25 years since this movie came out, but doing good. How are you?
Yeah, doing well. Did either of you see this in the theater when it first came out?
No.
Yes.
You did? Okay, I saw it with my dad in the theater, spring of '96. This movie was a big deal for me back in the day. I'm a lifelong golfer. There's very few golf movies in the world, and let alone any good ones, right? I mean, really, it's just this and Caddyshack for golf comedies. You know, so this movie means a lot to me. I'm really happy to have the two of you here to talk about it.
I'm happy to talk about it. I love Adam Sandler. I love all of his older movies. They're fun.
Yeah, fantastic. So I thought before we get into the movie, I'd just like to get a little background on the two of you, kind of what role has film played in your lives? Do you have any favorite movies you can share with us? What have movies kind of played in your life?
I guess how we got into movies is Zach is the one who kind of introduced me to get more excited about film. We would always we would go and see movies, and then afterwards, we lived in the Midwest before, we'd go see Inception or something late at night, and then we'd go to Applebee's and then have in-depth conversations of what we thought it meant. But
which you have to do for Christopher Nolan movies. You don't just go home and
absolutely.
bed after that.
Oh yeah. But it just, I don't know, it just became a way that we really connect, and we both love film. And yeah, my favorite film is Jaws. I love sharks.
Cool. Yeah, Jaws is fantastic. That movie holds up every time I watch it. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, you know, one of Spielberg's first films, and still to this day one of his best, for sure.
I agree.
I wish I had that relationship with I have two younger brothers, and they like video games, they like movies, but we never kind of bonded over film very much. So that's fantastic that the two of you have had that. What about you, Zach? What are some of your favorite films?
Well, we've actually talked about it on our podcast. My favorite movie is Lars and the Real Girl. Have you seen that?
That's a good choice. I've only seen it the one time, the one with Ryan Gosling. That's a good one.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. That's that is my feel-good movie. I don't know. I've got, my list is always shifting, and what I love, I just as Hayley mentioned, film's kind of always been part of my life. Some of my earliest memories, including Happy Gilmore, is going to the theaters with my dad or my mom, and just sitting in the theater, experiencing the story, kind of learning what was funny, what was dramatic, what. And so I'm always game to just talk about movies. And I've been on Letterboxd, recently, and I've just been putting all my reviews up on there. So yeah,
I need to get back into Letterboxd. I did it for 6 months a couple years ago, and then I just forgot about it. I have to get back into it because I know all of my film friends are on it. I'm like, oh, I got to get back into that. But I mean, going to the movies with my dad, such a favorite pastime of mine. We haven't done it as much the last 10, 15 years, but when I was young, we would go usually every Sunday afternoon. We go to the movies, and one of my top 2 or 3 favorite experiences with my dad at the movies was Happy Gilmore, for sure. My dad has the greatest laugh in the universe. It's amazing. Still to this day, amazing laugh. And he howled through the entire movie to the point where I don't even know if I necessarily loved it on the first viewing. I was very young when I saw it with him. I was 11. So, but I was like, okay, this is something special. This is fantastic. So yeah, let's talk about.
I was thinking about that with when I was watching this, and that I remember vividly sitting in the theater with our dad, and listening to him laugh and understanding okay, so this is what's funny, and maybe not understanding all of the jokes, but knowing okay, this is good humor, and so.
And what's really wild is just watching it now today again for the first time in many, many years. I've seen parts of it on TV. I'll turn it on, it'll be halfway through and I'll watch some of it. But from beginning to end, I would say it's been at least 10 years since I've watched the beginning to end. And I can still remember the scenes where my dad was laughing his ass off.
Yep.
25 years later, which is kind of crazy. So was this the first Adam Sandler movie for both of you? Or where did this lie in your introduction to Adam Sandler? Remember, Hayley?
My first film was Billy Madison.
Okay.
And
which is also very funny.
I love that movie.
Yeah. So that was his first major theatrical film after SNL, right? It was 95, Billy Madison, which I saw later. I think I saw that after Happy Gilmore. My introduction was Happy Gilmore. So what did you like Adam Sandler and Billy Madison?
Oh, yes. I can quote that entire movie. I watched it last night after Happy Gilmore.
Okay, cool. There you go.
Stop looking at me, Schwan.
Kind of an absurdist comedy, more so than Happy Gilmore is a little bit more of like a classical kind of comedy in terms of its narrative, whereas Billy Madison is a little bit more offbeat and weird and crazy.
Has like a stupid humor. Yeah.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit.
Billy Madison, yeah, that one's a little bit like when I saw it as a young kid, I was like, what is happening in this movie? Whereas Happy Gilmore, you could kind of follow the plot a little bit more easily in terms of what's happening at any given moment. What about you, Zach? Was Happy Gilmore your introduction to Adam Sandler?
Yes, it was. And shortly after we watched that, my dad and I rented Billy Madison. But Happy Gilmore, like that is one of the most vivid memories I have of like first time going into the theater. That and Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah.
I remember seeing that one in theaters, but
yeah, I saw the two of you just did an Ace Ventura, was it the sequel, When Nature Calls episode?
Yeah,
which was one of the first times I remember being like vividly disappointed in a movie when I was young. Because 94, that was the year of Jim Carrey. One of my other favorite memories with my dad, the two of us seeing Ace Ventura: Pet Detective opening weekend. I had no idea who Jim Carrey was. I'm like, why are you taking me to... He's like, just trust me. Fire Marshal Bill and Living. Just trust me. This is gonna be great. I'm like 9, right? I'm 9. I'm like, what is this? Who is this guy? This movie sounds really lame. And then you're in 10 minutes in, you're like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing ever.
Yep.
And then boom, he's in The Mask in the summer, he's in Dumb and Dumber in the winter, in less than a year, right? 3 huge comedy films. So by Batman Forever, I was like Jim Carrey super fan, was quoting his movies every day. And I got, for my birthday, it was like a week after my birthday, I got like all my friends, we all went to see Ace Ventura: When Nature Calls in November of 95. And it was very quiet watching that movie. Are you? I haven't had a chance to listen to your episode. Are you two big fans of the sequel?
To be honest, it was my brother-in-law who chose that movie. It's the movie that actually inspired him to be a film director.
Really? Cool. Nice.
If you ever met him, he is just a total goofball. He's very silly. He has very much the same Jim Carrey characteristics, but he can turn it off. He's just very funny and on point. But he brought it in.
Your brother hates me now.
My brother-in-law.
Your brother-in-law hates me now. Yeah. I'm sorry. I apologize.
No, it's okay. He convinced us. Oh, well, I guess me and Zachary were kind of skeptical about it, but after watching it and hearing his perspective on why, like it's about how he put it down is he's a confident idiot. And for some reason, I was just like, got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, there are scenes in that film that are great. Him coming out of the rhino is classic. There are moments that I love. There's just something about him being in the real world, really, in the first movie that I find funnier than in the sequel where he's overseas. I don't know. But but it's a lot of fun, and that was around the time really like into comedy, and that's right before Happy Gilmore, right? So that was November of 95. Happy Gilmore comes out in February of 96, and then Adam Sandler's career. I mean, he had so many films. I forgot, like in the late 90s, he was kind of like Jim Carrey, kind of pumping them out one after another. Between Billy Madison and I want to say Little Nicky in 2000, he's in at least like a movie a year. Or 2 movies a year, because 97 he's not in a movie, but 96 he is 2, and 98 he is 2. So he was working all the time.
If you call Jim Carrey and his characters a competent idiot, I think you can call Adam Sandler and his characters just a lucky idiot. Like looking at his filmography, he's very much like an angry idiot, but also he gets very lucky. So I'm looking through his filmography right now, and I feel he did have a string of.
Yeah, they're not all great. Bulletproof is kind of rough. I'm not a big fan of that. That also came out in 96. I saw that one later, but I love The Wedding Singer. The Water Boy is really fun. Big Daddy. Little Nicky, which was like his first real big box office bomb. I saw opening night with my friends and had a great time. So I haven't seen it in a while, but I remember it being funny. And then he started getting into in the 2000s more dramas, and some of them worked and some of them didn't. One of them is going to be on my top 3 for Adam Sandler, which we'll get to. But sticking with Happy Gilmore, kind of just in general, what do the two of you think of this one overall? Hayley, do you want to start?
Yeah, I love this movie. I think it's hilarious. My husband is a big golfer, so it's really fun. Because when I first watched it, it's a lot of, I don't know, you kind of have to understand the game to get some of the jokes. So it was fun to watch it with him and him explain to me why this was funny in golf terms. And I don't know, it gave me a new perspective. I thought it was great.
Yeah. I think you need to know like a little bit about golf for it to really work, but you don't have to know too much.
Yeah.
What about you, Zach?
Rewatching this morning, I was surprised by how often I still quote the movie, even though I don't realize I'm quoting it.
So many parts.
There were still a bunch of scenes where even my wife and I will just say stuff to one another, that and obviously stuff from Billy Madison, but they're just, I think this movie still holds up. I think Adam Sandler is just young enough in this movie that he you can excuse the childish behavior that he's
the right
doing.
Age. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think he could pull this off today.
No, not at all.
And it would be a 2.5-hour Netflix movie, so it wouldn't be good.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Have you guys his Netflix movies? I haven't watched all of them, but aren't they all like 2 hours plus? Because it's a Netflix. They don't have to edit anything.
Yes.
And it's they just go on. Have you watched any of those? I want to say 2015, right? He signed like a 4-movie deal, and he still to this day. Hubie Halloween, I think, is the newest one that aired in October of 2020 on Netflix. And it reunites him with Julie Bowen from Happy Gilmore. So I was actually intrigued by that. So I watched it. And Ben Stiller reprises his role from Happy Gilmore in Hubie Halloween.
Oh, that is so cool.
So there's that, and there's Julie Bowen and Adam Sandler, I believe, never worked together again after Happy Gilmore until Hubie Halloween. Yeah. So of the Netflix movies I've seen starring Sandler, the best of them is Hubie Halloween, and I would still give it like a 6 out of 10.
Okay.
So, I have not seen any of the Adam Sandler. We'll probably get into this later, but I took a real dive with Sandler where I stopped watching most of his movies
for a few years.
I did
too. I want to say, I took my dad because of like fond memories of Happy Gilmore. Every time there'd be a new Adam Sandler movie, I would if I was home, near my dad, I would take him to see the new one. I think there were 2 in a row that just were not funny, were not good, and then I kind of stopped with Adam Sandler. I was like, you're disappointing me too much here, dude. Nothing. Yep. I think nothing he makes now compares to the 90s comedies. I think those are his absolutely. Maybe Little Nicky in there. What was that one he did with Winona Ryder? Was it called Mr. Deeds from 2002? Yeah. That one was okay, but after Little Nicky, I'm trying to think, is there a really good Sandler comedy he made after 2000?
50 First Dates.
50 First Dates with Drew Barrymore. Yeah, yes. That one was fun. I saw it just the once. I don't remember it that much. But that one's probably more of a...
Yeah, you got Longest Yard.
Yeah.
Click.
Click, I remember enjoying the fantasy elements, but then it goes really sappy in the last 20, 30 minutes. It tries to become this heartwarming drama at the end, and that just did not work. I remember that.
Yeah. I remember the movie that soured me to Sandler, and it was I Now Pronounce You Chuck and Larry. I remember seeing that in theaters and being pissed off. I was like, this is not good. This is
definitely not even. Definitely, probably more dated, right, than anything else he's made in the last 30 years.
And so I was like, okay, I think I'm just done with Sandler.
Yeah. So the 2 I took my dad to that were disappointing. First one was Click, which I really thought Click was going to be great. And I was like, it's not terrible, but it was okay. And then You Can't Mess with the Zohan. I was like, okay, this is going to be a return to form. And that disappointed. And I was like, okay.
That was terrible. I watched that too. Oh gosh. I don't know.
Yeah. So I don't really know what happened. I mean, it's like he likes to work, right? I think he's in a movie almost every year since 95, if not, every 2 years. But he hasn't really made a great comedy in the last 20 years.
Well, there's a story, I can't vouch for the validity of this story or, in interviews I've seen with talk show hosts, but there's the story that Adam Sandler realized when they were filming or prepping to film 50 First Dates, which they had originally set like in mainland US, that he could get a studio to pay for him and his family to go to Hawaii, and then he could just film a movie. And so
he does that all 50
the time. After 50 First Dates, like if you look at the movie, Grown Ups movies, both of those are basically just vacation movies for him and his friends, where they
one where he's a girl, isn't that like on a cruise ship or something?
Jack and Jill. Yeah.
They go on a cruise.
And so I think it was just like him phoning it in of like, I'll just make a movie while I'm on vacation.
Yeah. I'll just go on vacation and they'll pay me a lot of money and I just have to show up to the set once or twice, just show up.
Yeah, exactly.
Like say some words. Like you can see like he's really going for it in Happy Gilmore. Like he is not phoning this one in. Like he wants to make a great comedy in this movie and you can feel it from the beginning.
Yeah.
I wrote down there are almost no lulls in this movie. Like it is constantly funny. If it's not funny, it's entertaining. I wrote down really the only part that maybe is a bit of a lull is the romantic scene at the ice hockey rink. Like there's one part where the movie slows down. And even that, it's maybe 2 minutes. It's not that long. Like there's so many comedies that just go, 20 minutes of just no laughs, of no nothing. And you're just like, oh, get to the end. This movie, again, watching it again, I'm like, there is like no lulls in it. Like this moves very quickly from the beginning to the end. There's lots of stakes in the plot. Like they keep raising. There's great energy all the way through. I forgot how many montages there are in this movie. There's like 10 or 12 montages, which you kind of need. It's about golf. Yeah. You can't just have them playing golf for 10 minutes, so it makes sense.
It's not enough. You need more montages.
But, great soundtrack. I did not know this. The score of this movie was composed by Mark Mothersbaugh, the guy who did the composition for the Royal Tenenbaums. Yeah. Did you know that?
No, I did not. That's amazing.
He's still scoring stuff today, but he was the composer of Happy Gilmore, the same guy who did the music for Royal Tenenbaums, which I found kind of interesting.
Wild.
So let's go through it. Maybe like talk about the first half hour, the beginning of the movie. Like, what do you guys like about the first third of Happy Gilmore? Anything in there that you enjoy?
I just like the introduction, how they introduce Happy.
Yeah.
And him with all of his different jobs doing the same type of movement.
Yep. I could hear my dad laughing for that part.
Same here. Here.
It shows him at like 4 or 5 different jobs and he's just doing basically the same move.
Yes.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, this is how you efficiently set up a movie. Okay, we're going to have some narration and we're going to be told like what his childhood was all about and to get us to today. And it's a little bit awkward, him just like, talking about his life story, but it happens really quickly and it's funny along the way, except for maybe his dad dying. But even that part is handled kind of, goofily.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's just like killed at the ice hockey game. But I thought the opening was pretty strong.
I think in the opening, one of the smartest things that they do is the scene with the grandmother when you first meet her, because the scene with the Gene Simmons mask, like you just instantly understand throughout the rest of the movie why Happy Gilmore is like dedicated to making sure that this woman is okay. Like, I love, like you can just feel that there's a relationship there, which is they could have messed up on, and they did that really well.
His relationship with grandma is what really pulls us through, what makes this movie really work. If that was just like a cousin or something, like she's so sweet. His grandmother, such a fantastic actress, and she, it's just such a wonderful close relationship, and that feels authentic. It doesn't feel forced.
Exactly.
Like he really loves her.
I particularly enjoy the hockey tryout and then him serenading the random people that walk by his voice box.
Yes,
like,
I totally forgot the scene. I forgot was like the girl breaking up with him. Like she's like, I'm done with you, you're not going anywhere. And that whole bit where he's talking to her through the intercom. And the joke's coming. Like when it stays on Adam Sandler for like 30 seconds, you kind of know what's coming, but it's still really funny. When I love just the first shot cutting to the kid just looking at so that part's really funny. I mean, there's really like the jokes land in this movie. Like there's very few that don't land where you're just like, oh, that was kind of like the crocodile like getting beaten up. That's a little goofy. It's not the greatest part of it. But like even when they're going for the jokes, if they're not, landing as well as they could, most of them do really well in this movie. Yeah. Anything else in kind of the opening? I love the inciting incident, like, oh, grandma's house is going to get repossessed and you have 90 days. That's a very screenplay kind of a trick. Okay, we need to set up the movie. We need to get him motivated to go make money. How do we do it? I mean, it's very screenplay-ish, but somehow it works. It works fine.
Yeah. There's like, I love this movie, but there are some issues with it.
Okay, yeah.
Mainly with the elder abuse. That's a problem with the movie.
Okay. So the whole Ben Stiller element of the movie is not your favorite.
I mean, I still think it's hilarious, but you could not make a movie like this today. Like, no, that would fall flat.
Yeah.
It's a sweatshop. That's all.
Yeah,
it's a sweatshop. He's creating a sweatshop.
But I feel like even that could have just been passed over. It could have just been, oh, grandma's at this kind of, retirement home and not happy there, blah, blah, blah. It could have been kind of like a dull element of the movie, but the screenwriter, like, we're going to add something to this and not only have her being taken advantage of, but then have the great Ben Stiller play this fantastic uncredited role. He's so funny in it.
He's great, and I am always overjoyed rewatching this movie when they go back to the nursing home, simply because it introduces maybe my favorite side character in the movie, which is the Mr. lady.
Mr.
Yeah, like I quote the "Get me out of here." Like I have distinct memories of Adam Sandler, like laughing as Adam Sandler's screaming and dumping the food on the woman, just like, please go away, and that she just keeps coming back and like, oh, I think I just killed the Mr. lady.
I to this day I quote that, like I'll say it here and there, like sometimes not even in context, is "Get me out of here." And when I'm golfing, I do golf, and I'll say like, just a little tappy, tap, tap, taparoo. Like, I'll do that. And I won't even in the moment really recognize it's from Happy Gilmore. I'll just say it.
Yeah, I think that's just become so ingrained in culture that like tap, tap, tap.
But yeah, I love that, like the way that scene is cut of him just driving up and like, oh, this is such a nice place. You're going to love it here, Grandma. And then the lady just jumps on the car and her just mouth is massive, huge. Just get me. And you're right. Like him dumping the food is just, it's like 3 hilarious bits in 5 seconds that you can't even like.
Yep.
It goes by so fast. And then we meet her again when he tries to get the AC going.
Yep.
And that expression on Adam Sandler's face when he sees her and he goes like, and she's just down there like doing this, like, help. Yeah. It's so stupid, but it's hilarious. One other thing about Ben Stiller, I briefly glanced. I forgot the DVD had a couple bonus features that had deleted scenes. Did you know there's a deleted scene at the end of the movie of like Adam Sandler going to get his mom and turning to Ben Stiller and saying, "So I know what you've been doing to my grandmother, and I'm not happy about it." And he tries to be like, "Oh, it's nothing." And then the next shot, you see Ben Stiller go flying off the second-story balcony. Adam Sandler chucks Ben Stiller off the second-story balcony, and he lands down below. And everybody comes racing out like, "Oh, look, yay, we finally got him." The deleted scenes were kind of rough, but that scene I liked. I think the problem is it would have come too late in the movie. Once we get to the final match between Shooter and Happy, I think the movie needs to stay on that. I don't think having another scene of comedy with Ben Stiller would have really made sense. I made a note, like, I love how at the end of this movie, we're once the movie's over, we're done. Like we don't stay for another 10 minutes. Some comedies overstay their welcome. This one, you have the final scene, which we need, and then that's it. It's over. You don't need to keep going.
I think you have to wait. Like that scene sounds hilarious, but do you want him throwing Ben Stiller off the balcony?
Yeah.
Or do you want him waving to Chubbs, the alligator, and
Abraham Lincoln?
And I think
exactly
everyone's going to agree that you go with the Abe Lincoln crocodile Chubbs combo.
Yeah. All right, so the golf begins when like those two guys are moving furniture out of his grandmother's house, and they're just like hitting the golf ball around outside. And he, what I love about this movie is that it's not like he's trying to be a golfer. Like he's not into the sport at all. He's like, I'm not going to play that. That's for girls or whatever he says. And then they're like, well, hey, if you can hit my ball past, if you can hit your ball past my ball, we'll go back to work. And so I like how he gets into golf, and we learn that he has the 400-yard drive. It's pretty authentic. It comes from a place that makes sense. It's not like he wakes up in the morning and goes, maybe I should try to play golf or something stupid like that.
Yeah.
It works with like the story. It makes sense in terms of the story.
And yeah, I think it gets to one of the funniest scenes, I think, in the movie, which is when Chubbs and Happy
Chubbs.
meet, and Happy's doing the baseball, the bat cage, and he's
and
getting
the little boy
hit in the face.
Oh yeah, and he's like, I got it.
Lose it every time with that scene.
Chubbs is another great character. Before we get to Chubbs, I just got to mention that it's so hilarious that the 3-part where he hits the golf ball, it goes really far, and then he hits the guy on the porch, and then he hits it a third time and hits the girl, and she rolls out of the house. And he goes, oops. It's so unbelievable, but it's hilarious.
Yep.
But yeah, the characters in this movie, the supporting characters are so fantastic, right? I mean, you get just right at the beginning, you get the Ben Stiller character, and then we get Carl Weathers, who's now in The Mandalorian, right? Still working, still in all sorts of cool projects. As
I
Chubbs.
actually had the chance to meet him.
Oh, you did?
Comic-Con. Yeah.
Oh, when was that? How did that go?
It was 2 years ago.
Okay.
My parents, I went with my parents, and they bought like a photo package and stuff. I went last minute, so I had no idea.
Okay.
I was just in there for the fun. And he sees me standing over to the side while I'm waiting for my parents to take their picture. Mm-hmm. He's like, get over here. I was like, okay. So I went over there and he gave me a big hug. He was really sweet.
It's, know, I lived in LA for a few years, and it's something else to not just to meet an actor or director, but somebody who's in a movie that you just love with a passion, where it's almost like when you see them in person, you're almost taken aback, right? Because of them in this film. So if I were to meet Carl Weathers, I would go nuts. I'd be like, oh my God, it's Chubbs.
Oh yeah. I was starstruck.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to do what Carl Weathers says.
Yeah. And he's a great presence. He's a great presence in this. I forgot that he's kind of not in the movie for the middle hour. He's not in it. Mm-hmm. And then, Happy needs him to help him with the short game. I was like, oh, that's right. That's how he comes back in. I was like, what is the mini golf? What does that have to? Oh, that's right.
Yep.
But his hand and the way it's destroyed in the first scene, and then all throughout the movie, he'll just be talking, and it's not very funny, but then you see his fingers and they're all crumbled. And that's the second thing that my dad would just lose it. I'm like, Dad, I can't hear the dialogue. Stop laughing. And he was like, oh my God, look at his hand. So that part of the movie, I have a great affection for too. And he's a great presence in this. He's fantastic. I like when we first meet him, he's teaching that woman, who's just she's hitting the ball and she can barely hit it a foot. And he's like, oh yeah, it's all in the hips. Yeah. Keep doing what you do.
That would be me playing golf.
He is just checked out. When we meet Chubbs, he is checked out of life, and he sees Happy, oh, I actually have a mission. I have something to do with my life right now. And so, yeah, I really like him in this movie, and kind of getting him on the pro tour, that whole sequence. For a golfer, seeing somebody make a hole-in-one on a par 4 is it always makes my the hair stand up. I'm like, oh my God, I've never gotten a hole-in-one before. So to get it on a par 4, that's crazy.
I had to have my husband explain that to me. I'm like, is that a good thing? He's like, yes, that is a very good thing.
Yes. A hole-in-one on a par 4, which Julie Bowen says it very she's got great articulation. She says it very slowly. He just got a hole-in-one on a par for, like she says it very slow.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, this is for the audience members who might not know what that means. But so yeah, once he starts playing, we're introduced to Julie Bowen, who's kind of the romantic lead of this movie. This is I want to say the first thing I had seen her in. I don't know what her acting roles were before Happy Gilmore, but this was like my introduction to her. And I made a note. I'm like, she almost looks younger now than she does in '96.
Yeah,
I think it's her hair.
Different.
It's her hair makes her look a little bit older. Like there's pictures of my mom in like the late '80s, and she has that same kind of hairstyle. And there's something about it that makes you look a little older, because on Modern Family, which has been the last 10, 11 years, she's almost looked younger now than she does in Happy Gilmore. Yeah. Which I find funny. But she's great in this. You know, she doesn't have a lot to do in terms of like, she's kind of just this, you know, supportive romantic interest in this, but you know, she does well in what she has to do. And then there's the great Christopher McDonald as Shooter Mcgavin, one of the great comedy antagonists of all time.
They almost gave.
What do we think of Shooter?
He is a good villain, but I was a little bummed because when I researched some facts, I found out Bruce Campbell tried out for it, and Bruce Campbell's from The Evil Dead. I love Bruce.
Bruce Campbell auditioned, like he tried out for Shooter.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay, because I read in the notes that Chris McDonald, he did not initially want to do this role. I guess he had played some villains for the previous few years, and felt like he didn't want to get typecast. So they had to like come to him. He had a meeting with Adam Sandler. He had to kind of be talked into doing it. Bruce Campbell, I love. I don't know if he would have been right for this role. You know, I almost feel like he's too likable. Bruce Campbell. You know, whenever I see him on screen, I like Bruce Campbell. You know,
you said typecast. Then I mean, I will always associate Christopher McDonald as Shooter Mcgavin.
Yeah. So it works.
Who he is.
Yeah, have either of you heard of Cameo.com, where you can like pay celebrities to say hi, happy birthday? So I got a couple last summer when it was, you know, during quarantine. I wasn't really buying gifts for people. I was buying a couple cameos for like my brothers and my mom. And Christopher McDonald is on there, and it doesn't even say Christopher McDonald. His name on Cameo is Shooter Mcgavin.
Oh my god!
He's just like, must be the movie he just gets approached for every day. So he's like, well, nobody really knows Christopher McDonald. That's not going to make me money. Let me put Shooter Mcgavin, Happy Gilmore. So that's what it says. I mean, most of everybody on there, it's their real name, but not him.
That's smart.
Makes sense.
Yeah, but he is great in this. Like, he feels like a real golfer. He's so intense. Like, he just wants that jacket. And this guy, and he's a very old school kind of golfer, does not like what Happy Gilmore's bringing to the game with all these crazy fans. And so, like, I really like what he does in this movie. It's really fantastic.
So are we allowed to swear on your show?
Just keep it like PG-13. No F words or A words. We can talk about the shit line is classic.
Yeah.
Okay. Towards the end.
I'll come back. He is such a I'll just leave it at that.
I mean, he's really just rotten to his core. I mean, it's not only that he's just awful to Happy Gilmore the whole movie, but he's going behind his back and like hiring this guy to come over and literally run a car over him. And I mean, it's beyond what he does in this movie. Like, he's definitely the ultimate antagonist in this one.
Yep.
And which makes it like his comeuppance at the end is so fantastic. It always makes me smile every time I watch it. So let's see. So yeah, all the golf stuff's really funny. I like how Happy Gilmore doesn't understand the game at first. He doesn't know, like, when the caddy grabs his clubs, he just shoves them to the ground. I love that part. It's like, what the hell are you doing? Like, Mr. Gilmore, I'm your caddy. Oh, sorry. Just like little jokes like that where this guy just does not know the sport, so it just makes it even funnier. So that whole sequence is really great. And of course, his fits of rage. What do we think of his fits of rage? I was just trying to get the ball in the hole. It just wouldn't go in. And then he just rips the guy's shirt off. Like, this is ultimate Adam Sandler rage comedic performance. You know?
I think I mentioned it earlier, but I think this is one of the last times that the like childhood rage character that he's got going really works, because the rage, it's not too much. He knows when to pull it back. And I love him fighting people. It's hilarious. So
yeah, it's really over the top, right? In The Water Boy, isn't that like that's a big part of The Water Boy? Is that when he gets that rage, that's how he, can play the sport of football? Like, so that it plays a role in that too. But this one, it's not so much like it doesn't really. It's not helping his game or anything. It's just like a part of his character. The best rage part is when he has like the little 2-foot putt and he misses it. And then it cuts to Julie Bowen in that office kind of talking about, well, let's work with him, and in the background for like 2 minutes, he's just dropping one F-bomb after another. And if you see in the background, the camera's just following Happy Gilmore as he just talks to the ball. I'm like, this would never happen in a million years in real life. But it's so funny. It's another part, like I can hear my dad just going on. Yeah. So that part I like a lot. I'm like trying to imagine like on the Golf Channel today, there's some golfer who goes ballistic and he says like 800 F words in the course of a minute. And there's some guy in the control room like bleeping out every F word.
I have this memory of watching Happy Gilmore in theaters, and I don't know if it's a deleted scene or if I'm just misremembering, but I've always felt like there was a part where in that scene that you're talking about when he's in the background screaming, where I could have sworn that he like moons the golf ball, where he like gets pissed off that he like, but
maybe you just dreamed it.
Maybe. So
yeah.
But
he does moon us at the beginning, right? When he's like the plumber. What's the job? Yeah. But I mean, I feel like I bet this movie had so much deleted material. On the DVD, we get about 15 minutes of just some scenes, and then like 3 minutes of outtakes or whatever it is. But I bet this movie has a lot in the vault.
Oh, I'm sure.
Like stuff we've never seen. I think Julie Bowen said something about a deleted scene where she kisses somebody else that I'm like, well, that's not on the DVD. It's so weird to me when a movie has a collection of deleted scenes, but then you read about the film and there's other deleted scenes that they talk about that aren't on the DVD. So I'm like, is it a matter of like, is there an actor in the scene that they can't get the rights or something? I don't know. Kind of interesting.
Yeah.
You think they would just have all of it?
Yeah.
Why not?
Just give us all of it.
Yes.
So I mean, I have very few like negative things to say about this movie. One thing that always bothers me is that there's at least 2 scenes where Julie Bowen's character just randomly shows up, like she was like not part of the scene, and then it's especially in that scene where Adam Sandler like breaks the glass on the bottle and like shoves it up against Shooter Mcgavin, and Shooter's like, oh, I meant on the golf course, and then all of a sudden Julie Bowen runs up and like stops the fight, and I'm like, wait, where did she come from? Like, she was just randomly in the bar, just like there. So there's like little parts like that. And then when he gets hit by the water on the 9th green at 9 o'clock or whatever it is, and she's just randomly walking on the golf course by herself. Like, I'm like, what is she doing?
Yeah.
Does that bother you? I don't know. It always makes me, I was like, where did she come from?
Yeah, that was odd.
Kind of weird. It's like, oh, we need her character in this scene. Let's just have her there. She'd be there. She's the publicist, so she's just there all day.
She lives at the golf course. She's her bedroom's next to the Astros machine, the asteroid machine. So,
and then the only like side character played by a semi-famous person that I don't think adds anything to the movie, that's Kevin Nealon. Like, I think his character is kind of blah. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah.
He's just like, he doesn't have any laughs. He shows up, but you kind of like giggle that's Kevin Nealon. And then he doesn't really have anything to do. So that's the only figure of the movie I don't think adds anything. But that's about it. That's like all the negative things I have to say about it.
Yeah.
What was the other? Oh, I feel like there's a few too many montages. And the romance works just okay. What do we think of the romance in this movie? It's kind of, but they don't really lean into it very hard. So it's okay. Like if they really tried to make a long romantic subplot, that would have been, making me gag, but it's only a small part of it, so it's okay.
Yeah.
It's like we just talked on the podcast about Miss Congeniality for its 20th anniversary, which is one of my favorite comedies, and like we talked about the romance in that. It's a little bit Sometimes it's more about the laughs, right? What were you gonna say, Hayley?
I was just gonna say I think that they needed somebody in there because, like, this character is a lot. He is. But that's what's great about him. And they kind of need somebody there to dial him down.
Yeah, she's perfect for that.
Yeah. But I get what you mean. Like, the romantic energy or whatever was not quite there.
I didn't really buy. She's like a publicist. Like, she literally says, I don't date golfers. And then 10, 20 minutes later, she's kissing him on the ice rink. And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, he's a handsome guy. I mean, I could see her kind of being flirtatious with him maybe, but she seems to be really dedicated to her job. So I don't know. It just seems it's a little bit out of left field when she's making out with him. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think there's much chemistry there, and I think it's just the obligated, you know, you got to have the Adam Sandler's got to have the very pretty woman that he ends up wooing, and you know, I think like in a lot of his movies they take it too far, like her in the fantasy in the lingerie. Like, I feel like a lot of that's unnecessary at a certain point where it's like, let's just make her a publicist, make her good at her job, and she calms him down, and maybe there's I don't know. But maybe
I'm kind of mixed on that too, the go to your happy place, but it does have a pretty good payoff at the end, which I like. With Chubbs, getting Chubbs to play the piano. I like
you need that scene with Chubbs, but it's
the lingerie was not necessary.
I think the romance there is unnecessary. I think you definitely need Julie Bowen in the movie, but I don't know, maybe just like
I mean, I like how she's like kind of helping out with Grandma in the second half. Like, she seems to really care for Happy and wants to be a part of his life, and that all work. I mean, I don't think the movie would be better without that romantic subplot, but it's just it's as in most comedies of like this one, it's a little bit shoved in, like, oh, we need to have this happen. But
that's just part of a 90s comedy.
The 90s comedy. Yeah. So then we get to Richard Keel from James Bond. You know, he played Jaws in Spy Who Loved Me and Moonraker as Mr. Larson, right? Happy Gilmore's old boss, who he hit in the head with a nail. And the nail is still there. I forgot the line where he says, it's coming out next week. And Happy's like, oh, you don't even notice it. He's a great addition to this movie. I don't think he was acting very much come the mid-90s, but boy, what a great, I don't know who, like, I should have looked up the casting director's name of this movie. Like, such a great cast. Like, this is not, they're going full bonkers with this supporting cast in this movie.
Oh, for sure.
You know, like, I don't know, like, who thought of, like, what about the guy from James Bond to play the boss?
Yeah.
And it's so great because Shooter McGavin's like this kind of intimidating presence, and then he turns around and he looks up at it, and he goes, oh my God. So that's a great moment. So yeah, I liked him in this movie. He's only in maybe 2 or 3 minutes of it, but he's a great addition. And then we get to Bob Barker. What do we think of the Bob Barker section? Zach, what do you think? Or Hayley, what do you think of Bob Barker?
Oh, Zach, you can go ahead.
Our grandmother used to watch Price is Right every day. And I remember, even when I was little, going over and watching it with her. And so having the memory of like watching him do that, and then coming into Happy Gilmore and just watching him beat the hell out of Adam Sandler was hilarious. So
I read up on IMDb that I guess he finally agreed to be in the movie when he knew that he could be the victor in the fight. That Bob Barker wanted to be the winner.
Makes sense.
And they said, oh, we can have a stunt double do the whole fight. And Bob Barker was like, no. Like, I think it's a stunt double when he's like rolling down the hill, which would make sense. But I think like all of the fighting stuff, like closer up, that's all him, which I think makes it work. What do you think of that sequence, Hayley?
To be honest,
Not your favorite?
It was, I don't know if it was needed, but it was definitely funny.
It is probably the one part of the film you could probably take out the Bob Barker sequence and nothing would change, right? I mean, what do we learn in that sequence? We learn that he has a really bad day, right? Is that when he has to like win a couple more or not get last place? He says at one point, he says, Grandma, we can buy the house. I just can't place last the next 2 games. I think then we get to him placing last with Bob Barker, which kind of plays into that a little bit. But I mean, it does have a great finale of them fighting and that whole, the price is wrong, bitch. I mean, that was quoted very often in 96 by moi.
Yes.
Yeah. And is this the only movie that Bob Barker appeared in? I mean, he did not really act very much.
I'm not sure.
I forgot to look that up, but I don't think he really was in anything but this movie outside of Price is Right. So I feel like, and that's another kind of masterstroke. Like, who thought of, okay, he's paired up with a celebrity, Bob Barker. Like, who thought of that?
So I want to know if you guys remember this, especially like this concept in general. But Hayley, I want to know if you remember us having this on our computer. Do you guys remember with like home computers, you could download themes for your like desktop where it would change the buttons and icons and sounds that you would make if you clicked on files or the start menu or shut down? Does that ring any bells to you guys?
Is this like the 90s?
Yeah, it was 90s, early 2000s.
Okay.
I had one for Happy Gilmore on our home computer.
So it was like a backdrop, like a wallpaper?
It was a wallpaper, but when you boot it up, it would say like, it would do a quote from the movie. You would hear them say it, or like when you shut down, you know, you'd hear Bob Barker go, "The price is wrong, bitch." And
as your computer shut down?
Yes. And so like, I remember downloading the theme for Happy Gilmore and just being so pleased that I could just have random quotes pop up as I like clicked on a file to open Internet Explorer or something. So
yeah. The 90s. There were a lot of crazy stuff we had with in the 90s. I remember my kind of big introduction to movies in the 90s, like for the computer, was a program called Cinemania, which was like 4 or 5 years they had it. This was like right before the internet really came into being, like for, you know, searching stuff. And this program had like every movie made prior to like 93. It had information, reviews, stills, music, video clips of all these older movies. And that was kind of my education as a young person getting into movies. And I often think like today, the reason I know so much about so many films is because of those like 3 years where I just be in my room studying Cinemania, reading Roger Ebert's reviews and what's good and what's bad. So I pulled up, I wanted to know who did it. So Joanna Colbert, she was the casting director of Happy Gilmore.
Joanna Colbert. Okay.
Joanna Colbert. Let's see. She's got almost 50 credits to her name. She cast films in 2019. So she's been working all the way. Her first credit is Happy Gilmore. That is crazy to me.
Knocking it out of the park first time.
First casting director credit. So she worked in casting as early as 1990. She was a casting assistant or associate on films like Malice, Interview with the Vampire. That would be a good one to get your get your foot in the door for Interview with the Vampire. The Trigger Effect. So yeah, her first film as the sole casting director was Happy Gilmore. Good on you, Joanna. Nicely done.
Yeah.
I would love to find her somewhere. I'd love to talk to her about the process of casting this movie. It's got to be fascinating. Like there's so many great people in this. All right. So yeah, the Bob Barker sequence is really funny. I just love the expression Bob Barker makes when he's like on the ground and you think he's unconscious. And then he like opens his eyes that really weird way.
Like, yep.
like that was like over the top, but it works for the scene. Yeah. So I like that. Let's see. Going up, we have the Subway commercial. This movie has a lot of product placement, right? And at the time, I'm like, oh, they're at Subway eating. That you know, there's nothing wrong with it. And now you look at it, you're like, okay, clearly Subway is paying them some money to have their scenes shot in a Subway, and they actually have the commercial too. And you have Julie
worked.
It works.
I don't know about you guys, but I wanted a Subway sandwich.
It does make you. I don't really like Subway that much. I'd rather go to Porta Subs or pretty much anywhere else. But like you're watching this movie and you kind of crave Subway.
Oh yeah.
I love the commercial of the guy getting the sandwich and he hits hits the golf club and he goes
Yep.
Like that's really great. I love that part. And I love, it's like, okay, he's like, what is he kicked out for a month or whatever because of his bad behavior with Bob Barker? Oh, that's another part of why the Bob Barker scene needs to be there, right? Because his fight with Barker kicks him out for a month, right? And so it's like, oh, well, now I can't get the $270,000 to pay the mortgage or to get the money back for the house. And then Julie Bowen's character, right? She's like, oh, well, what if you did a commercial? And I like that they're literally watching the finished edited commercial on TV. And now it's like, I think commercials take a little bit longer than that to actually air. I don't think that would be like within 2 weeks. I think there'd be a longer stretch. But commercials do pay very well.
Do you think anyone had to tell Bob Barker that his scene solely exists so that they can have more product placement? Because
that's how
Bob, we need you to come in. We need you to come in.
I wonder how many
Adam Sandler.
I wonder how many days he shot on this. I feel like that's probably like 2 days, maybe. Bob Barker. I don't think he worked on this movie very long.
Oh no.
This feels like a movie that was probably filmed fairly quickly. Like, it's a studio film. I forgot. It's got the big Universal logo at the top. I'm like, oh, that's right. It's like a big Universal theatrical release. But I want to say this movie probably didn't cost a whole lot of money. Adam Sandler was very new on the scene, at least on the film scene, right? So yeah, I'm gonna look up real quick here, what the movie cost and everything. But yeah, we go into we have the Subway product placement, which is, I really like that commercial. That's really funny. And then we're starting to kind of move our way towards the last third. We get Chubbs back into the movie. What did we think of the mini golf sequence? which is kind of charming. What do you think of that one, Hayley?
Oh, that was great. I'm horrible at golf. Bad at mini golf, all of that
mini
stuff.
golf is hard. It's not the same as regular golf.
No. That was an intense mini golf course too. I've never seen anything like that.
Yeah,
just a building collapse.
Was that a real mini golf course, or did they create that for the movie? I'd be really curious to know, because it is like the earthquake. I'm like, that's not real. I can't imagine that being a thing.
I love the clown scene. You're gonna die, clown.
Yeah. What's so great about the clown scene is that he actually hits the ball in the mouth and then it spits it back out and laughs, and that's what just sets him off. I love that. And I'm like, I think he'd probably have to pay for that before they left.
Probably. Yeah.
Did anyone see that? Maybe they got away with it.
The one guy saw it. The one who is always just going.
Oh, that's right. I believe that was I think that's a real golfer, where we cut to that guy 5 times and he's just shaking his head. He has one line: Grizzly Adams did have a beard.
Oh yeah. I was curious as to why they kept showing him.
I looked up. I came across this randomly earlier, but I guess that actor, that guy, he regrets having been in Happy Gilmore. He did not expect the movie to have as much foul language as it did. Which is not even that bad. I mean, just the part where he's swearing and they're bleeping it? I don't know. So the budget of Happy Gilmore was $12 million, and it grossed $41 million worldwide.
Wow.
It says the domestic gross was $38.8 million. Worldwide gross 41.2. So this didn't really go overseas.
Didn't do well.
Yeah, I feel
anywhere else.
Yeah, I feel like Adam Sandler wasn't a big enough name overseas yet, so that kind of makes sense to me. But I mean, that's not bad for 96 for $12 million. That's more than triple, so that's good.
Well, and this is also a very, I feel like, American sensibility on sports films, where you're taking a distinguished sport where everyone's very proper, and you're just throwing in a dude who's bringing in beer kegs and party animals, the very American spirit of Happy Gilmore. So it makes sense that it only really did well here.
Yeah. We should mention that the film was directed by Dennis Dugan, who directed a lot of Adam Sandler movies, right? And wasn't he in the movie? Who did he play? He played Doug Thompson, right? The guy who's he's always kind of talking to either Julie Bowen's character or Shooter McGavin. He's kind of runs the tournaments and stuff. So he's actually in the movie as well. He's been working nonstop since 96. He's done a lot of Sandler movies, a lot of other stuff. I think mostly does comedies to this day. And the movie was written by Adam Sandler and Tim Herlihy, who I believe also wrote a lot of Sandler movies. Maybe still does. I feel like that'd be a good guy to have on your side. Like if you're co-writing films with Adam Sandler, you got it made. You're gonna be working till you're old and dead. Adam Sandler is a workaholic. I mean, he's always making films and things. So yeah. I we get to the end of this movie. I forgot one thing about that mini golf scene I forgot was that we do have a planting and payoff to the final part of when he actually makes that shot to win the whole tournament at the mini golf, right? He actually like does it once, like it goes boop, 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 all over the place. I was like, oh, I forgot about that. There is a planting for what happens at the end, which is kind of like a old screenwriting rule. I was like, oh, that was new to me. I forgot about that. And then golf is, it's not a fun sport to watch. Do either of you watch golf ever?
I do mainly because my husband.
Okay.
I watched what's the most recent one? I saw the Masters tournament where
Masters is great.
Where Tiger Woods won again. That was pretty crazy. I don't know. I want to be there when it happens. Like I want to know golf etiquette and stuff. That'd be fun.
Yeah. But I mean, to people who aren't into golf, it's not a great sport for them to watch a lot, right? So I feel like something that this movie pulls off really well is that it makes golf fun. Like even when they're just playing, it's just him and Shooter and they're playing back and forth. Like there's an energy to the pacing of the movie that I feel works pretty well. Whereas, sometimes even in Caddyshack, which I like a lot, I don't like it as much as Happy Gilmore. It's a little bit more dated for me than Happy Gilmore, but I feel like the pacing of Caddyshack is much kind of slower than in this movie, which is a little bit more kind of 90s hurrying things up a little bit, which is, sometimes I mind, sometimes I don't, but golf can be deadly dull on the screen, and that's something that this movie pulls off. It's never really dull, so that's something that probably took Dennis Dugan some doing in the editing room, but he pulled it off. All right, so let's talk about the last kind of third of the movie, the last major sequence. I love how the movie keeps ratcheting up the tension and the stakes. It's like, okay, not only, does Happy need to win this final game, if he doesn't, Shooter Mcgavin is going to actually take his grandmother's house and he's going to boot, Happy Gilmore out of the game. So there's a lot at stake in that last 20 minutes. What do we think of the kind of the last stretch of this movie? What works for you in that last part of it?
Him getting hit by the car, not really into that. That just came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Why?
There's so much. Yeah. And then he just like gets up. He's like, oh, I'll be okay. And I'm like, I think in real life, they would make him leave. Like they would say, you have to come back. Yeah. That guy, he's so wonderfully annoying. I hate that guy. Who's just, there's nothing worse than playing golf and you can hear people talking, right? So I've had that experience where I'm up about to tee and there's like a group behind us waiting and they're talking and I want to be like, shut up, so there's like, if you're a golfer, that frustration of hearing somebody talking in the background.
Yeah. And
I'm like, this guy is like crouching under the sand trap and saying, you suck, jackass. I'm like, there's no way they would allow that. There's no way.
Yeah. I agree with Hayley. The car crash scene, like, feel like cops would have been called and they would have had to have been like, it was very precarious to have just that whole structure supported by the car. I don't know. I do like that Happy, gets in Shooter's face because he's learned how to putt. I think that whole montage is great. But
one other part that's not believable is that part where Happy goes up to the ball. He's just had go to his happy place, and it was the bad one, right? Where we see Shooter Mcgavin making out with Virginia, making out with Grandma, and it's like, oh God. And then he keeps hitting the ball like 7 times before he finally gets it up. I'm like, okay, just that there's no way he would have won.
Yeah.
Those 7 strokes and then he's like, and then he goes back to the happy place. And then all of a sudden he's like tied with Shooter. I'm like, no, I don't. You have to just kind of buy it. You just have to go with it. You can't think about it too hard.
It's Adam Sandler magic. What were you going to say, Hayley?
I was just going to say, especially with that tower coming down and him having to golf in that condition. Like, I don't play golf, but I'm sure that would not be acceptable.
Yeah. For me, what is more unbelievable than him sinking that last putt is, it's the director of the movie, Dennis Dugan, right? He comes up and Shooter Mcgavin says, you got to play it as it lies. I just hit a shot off of Frankenstein's fat foot. And then the other guy goes, I'm afraid he's right, Mr. Gilmore. Take your best shot. I'm like, there is no way they would make you putt with some structure that fell in front of the hole. There's no way. That is so unbelievably ridiculous. It's like, I really have to just clenched my okay, just get past that, Brian. there's no way they would make him putt that shot.
No.
Yeah.
But the movie doesn't work. The movie doesn't work if they're like, oh, well, let's be realistic about this and say, yes, Mr. Gilmore, we'll clean this up. That doesn't work. So it makes sense. On a story level, it makes sense.
Yes.
But we get to that last hole. They're tied. And Shooter hits it over the green. It lands on Richard Keel's foot. What does he say? He says, it struck my foot. I love that whole part. That's fantastic. And then it ends with the part that my dad and I quoted the most from the entire movie. And you can count on me waiting for you in the parking lot. We said that line over and over to each other for years after this movie. I love that part.
He has the most terrifying shirt on too. Guns don't kill people. I kill people.
Yeah. So then we get to the last screen. Happy's in his happy place, and and Julie Bowen, Virginia, comes up and she's like, we'll clean this up and we'll finish tomorrow. Or oh no, she says, just shoot around it, putt that way, and then putt in, and we'll go to sudden death. And he says, oh no, I'll just beat him now. Which I love. And then I love the editing of like the people watching the ball doing this, like at a tennis match. They're like doing that. Yeah. And it's just so like celebratory when it pops out and goes in the hole. The movie wouldn't have worked as well if he just had a long putt. Shooter makes his putt, and to beat him, he needs to make a putt, and he just tapped it in. That wouldn't have been a great ending. We needed something big. And I thought they came up with the right choice doing what they did in this. Is fantastic. And just everybody just roaring with applause and Shooter going, no, it's such a great ending. And then we get Shooter's kind of demise in a way, right?
Yep. And chasing after Shooter. And yeah, that
slow motion. We get the slow motion, everybody charging towards him. And then he's not part of the wide group of like extras. But we get that one close up of Richard Keel just, just like coming after him. And then if you notice, right when Christopher McDonald is off screen, then you hear the face pounding.
Yep.
Which they probably didn't shoot. I don't know.
Props to Shooter Mcgavin for being able to put on a jacket while sprinting. That's pretty impressive. With everyone
coming after. Yeah. Because, he says it before, like he's been trying to get that jacket for years, right? He's always wanted that jacket. Yep. We were introduced to that very early on when Happy Gilmore walks into the bar or whatever, and all the other golfers there are wearing the jacket, and he turns to Shooter and says, oh, you don't have one. So it's kind of built into the story very early on that this is what Shooter wants more than anything. So for him to get the jacket, but he still loses, I think is a great way to end it for his character.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he wins the game. He's hugging Grandma and hugging Virginia. And after Shooter Mcgavin has his ending, we go to the final scene, which is maybe 90 seconds, right? Let's go home, which is a very cliche line. A lot of movies end with let's go home. But this one, it works because so much of the plot was about him trying to get the home back for his mom. I feel like that line works pretty well in this. And I don't think we needed more. I think the movie's over. I think we ended at the right place. You guys think we needed another scene or anything?
No. That house though is insane. Like,
yeah.
Who? Just one guy built that? Okay.
Oh, that's right. She says, like, yeah. He says, my granddad built this with his bare hand.
Yeah.
Just one brick at a time. Yeah. Yeah, so I love the way this movie ends. As I said, I very little, usually on the podcast, and especially the regular episodes of films I've never seen before, I'm like, well, yeah, this doesn't work, and that's this movie I just think is one of the great classic 90s comedies. It's one of my favorites for sure.
Agreed.
Yes.
Yeah. So, looking at it, 25 years on, do you think this movie has it dated in any way? Does it still hold up today for the two of you? Like, has anything changed in 25 years of comedy where this movie is a little dated, or how is it, thinking of this movie for its 25th anniversary, does it still hold up for the two of you?
I think it does. Yeah, for sure. There's like some problematic themes to it for sure, but with the setting and it being Adam Sandler being at a younger age, I think it's acceptable. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something we talk. My regular podcast focuses on 50-year-old movies, And almost every episode, we have to talk about something problematic.
Yeah.
Like, oh, gee, I'll be watching it. I'm like, oh, no, don't use that word, or don't do that. Oh, okay, we got to talk about that, And that's just, that comes with the territory. You look at a film from 50 years ago that has not been censored in any way. It was a different time. 1970, 1971 was a much different time. So, you just have to kind of deal with it. But this movie, I feel like, there's some things here and there in the, in the dream sequences towards the end, the happy place, we get not just Julie Bowen and Grandma, and we also get we get something else that I'm like, I don't know if the movie needed that.
No,
the little person. But I feel that's very 1995, 1996 comedy in that respect.
For sure.
But for the most part, I think this movie holds up really well. 25 years since its release. It was really fun to watch it again. It had been a long time. And it was really fun to talk about it with the two of you.
Agreed. Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's end our conversation by talking about the career of Adam Sandler more generally. What are your 2 or 3 favorite Sandler movies if you had to choose? Let's start with you, Hayley. What are some of your favorite Sandler movies?
I'm going to have Zach take this over right now.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to look it up.
Oh, okay. Yeah, go for it. Okay, Zach. So if you had to pick 2 or 3, what would you go with?
So I think the best movie he's done is Punch Drunk Love.
Yep, that's in my top 3 for sure.
I think it's an interesting case of taking basically what's the Happy Gilmore character, but putting him in the real world.
Yeah.
Where he's still playing the angry child, but you get a reason why he's like that.
Yeah, Paul Thomas Anderson, such a brilliant casting choice to bring Sandler into that film. It could have been a dramatic actor, but he wanted to do a movie with Sandler.
Yeah. And I think if I had to pick one that we haven't really brought up, I love Billy Madison. I love Big Daddy, but I think one that he doesn't get, enough love for is Airheads. I really like that movie.
Airheads. Gosh, I don't even know if I've watched that whole movie. That was 94, right? So that was right before Billy Madison. Is he one of the 3 leads of that movie?
He is. He's the drummer.
Okay. So so that's kind of that was kind of a big theatrical film, right? In 94. So that's before Billy Madison. Yeah. So his first lead where he's the sole lead of a theatrical film would be Billy Madison. Okay, gotcha. Yeah. So Airheads, who else was in that? Was Brendan Fraser in that?
Brendan Fraser and Steve Buscemi.
And Chris Farley is part of it too, right?
He might have played a bit part, but
or am I thinking of Coneheads?
Yeah, you might be thinking of Coneheads.
Yeah, I remember Farley was in Coneheads. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. But a lot of those movies in like 92 to 96, there would be a lot of SNL cast members who would have cameos, right? I mean, even Happy Gilmore, right? We get Kevin Nealon, we get a couple. But yeah, so before Billy Madison, we have Airheads, which I have very little memory of. Is that worth another watch, Zach? I haven't seen it.
I think so. It's pretty dated, but okay. I think Brendan Fraser is great. Steve Buscemi is great.
Love Buscemi.
Yeah. Adam Sandler is kind of the minor character of the 3, but I think it's for those who haven't seen it, it's the one where a rock band takes over a radio station to get their demo played. That's basically it. So
nice.
Yeah. What about you, Hayley?
Yeah, Hayley, what are a couple of your favorites?
My 3 are Billy Madison, of course, Big Daddy, and The Wedding Singer.
Yes, we haven't really talked about The Wedding Singer. That would probably be, of his comedies, that's probably my second favorite, is The Wedding Singer. What do we like about The Wedding Singer? Everything.
Yes,
I love the period of it is great.
Yes, the song at the end, he makes great songs. You got to give him that.
Yeah. And that was a little different kind of comedy for him at the time, right? He's not doing Billy Madison and Happy Gilmore again. He has moments of rage, right, in Wedding Singer. But it's a little bit more of a romantic film. It's more really his and Drew Barrymore's film, right? It's kind of half and half. And they're great together. Obviously would work together 2 more times. 50 First Dates, and Blended, which I don't even know if I saw Blended.
I haven't seen that.
Kind of a weird title. I think my favorite of theirs is The Wedding Singer. It's such a great movie. It's one I like to revisit here and there. I have the DVD, so yeah. So my two favorite comedies, it's tricky, right? Because he's in both comedy and drama, and it's hard for me to kind of place them next to each other, right? Because they're so different. If I had to pick my favorite Sandler movie, if I could only take one for the rest of my life, it would probably be Happy Gilmore. Like if I could only take one. But I love The Wedding Singer, and Waterboy's really fun too. And then I love Punch Drunk Love. Paul Thomas Anderson is one of my favorite directors. After Punch Drunk Love, he moves into kind of like darker territory and a lot more serious territory with films like There Will Be Blood and The Master and Phantom Thread. Punch Drunk Love is kind of his last kind of lighter film, and it's really short, right? It's like 90 minutes, but really great. Kind of uses Adam Sandler in a different way. And then the film nobody has mentioned, which I thought was the greatest performance I saw on film in 2019, and that was Uncut Gems. Did either of you see that?
That movie is just anxiety.
Like the most stressful movie I've seen in years.
I couldn't breathe for like however long it was.
Yeah, I thought it's not a fun watch, so I wouldn't put it as my Adam Sandler movie to take to a desert island by any means. But he is great in that movie. That is his best acting performance on film, I think, of all of the movies he's done. Like those directors use him in a really, even more so than P.T. Anderson did in Punch Drunk Love. Like that is a real genuine character that I forgot after a long stretch that I was watching Sandler. Like he really becomes like somebody else in that movie. Usually I'm just watching Adam Sandler.
Yeah.
And it had been a long stretch since the quality Sandler project, right? It had been many years. He's been doing Netflix movies. I thought he was just totally checked out. And then in 2014, he did two dramas. He did a film called The Cobbler and a film called Men, Women, and Children, neither of which is very good, but they're dramas. And so I was kind of like, oh, so he's still up for doing a dramatic performance. That's kind of cool. And then 5 years later, he's in Uncut Gems, which is such a fantastic film and lead performance by Sandler. Well deserving of his Independent Spirit Award for Best Actor of the Year. He didn't get in for Golden Globes or the Oscars. I didn't think he would. It's a kind of a tough movie. I don't think a lot of, voters would have gone for it, but he is great in the movie. I'm very happy it exists and that we can see kind of a later stage Sandler dramatic performance like that. It's really fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah.
For sure.
All right, so that takes us to the end here. I want to thank the two of you for being here for the special bonus episode talking about one of my comedy favorites, Happy Gilmore. If the two of you can just tell our listeners where they can find you online and maybe plug your podcast a little bit, would be great.
For sure. Yeah. You can follow us on Instagram at Us Laughing at Us and Twitter at Siblings Laugh.
Yeah. We're, as you mentioned, we're laughing at ourselves. We just like to talk movies. So we tend to, each month we pick a theme. One of us will pick a theme. We just bring random movies we want to discuss and kind of similar format, just break down what makes us so happy about film. So
cool.
We really appreciate you having us on.
Yes.
This is great.
This was a lot of fun. It was so nice to meet the two of you, and hope we can do it again sometime. It was a lot of fun.
Yes, for sure.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right. So thanks for being here again. And thank you to all of you for listening to Film at 50. We will catch you next time.